I was looking for a movie to watch and I found one being Calamity of a Zombie Girl. This anime actually comes from a light novel, so I was intrigued to how they made it, and this was aired back in 2018. This movie is brutal, so I'll try to leave some of those scenes out, just how I'll try to leave some of the weird scenes out. Now, knowing that, let's talk about the movie. It starts off with a group of students from the occult club from a university going to a building they're not supposed to be at, not noticing that they are also being monitored. Now, they actually don't supposed to be here because they picked the lock allowing them to enter the building. Now, inside the building, the group is looking for something that was the treasure of the Shogun. One of the guys says that they found something, but not the treasure, rather a coffin. This is something a woman who was part of the group found herself interested in, which is weird because I'm assuming it's going to be like a mummified body or something. They opened the coffin to find a girl's body inside. Not only that, but it was extremely well preserved. Now, when we transition to a professor and an old guy talking outside, we see that the professor enjoying popping firecrackers with his sister Mako, but no one cares about that right now, so let's go back to the thieves. While a few of them are fooling around, we cut back to the one who was messing with the coffin to reveal that there is also another body right beside it, making two extremely well preserved corpses. She starts to mess with one of the corpses and take a gem from it. One of the corpses starts to move a little bit, but not enough to draw attention. Time's up for the group to look for the treasure, so they decide to leave. While they're leaving, the corpses seem to get their youth back and rise up. Fast forward a little bit later to the group. They're chilling while they complain about how they couldn't find the treasure. By the way, they attempted a heist at their own university. Just wanted to mention how stupid that was because you still have to go back to the school there. Now let's go back to the zombie girls who were deciding their next move, when they're spotted by the old man who was talking to the professor earlier. Now, trying to be a responsible adult, the old man tries to take the girl with him because as far as he knows, this girl is an intruder. Too bad for him, the girl didn't know her own strength and actually kills the guy. To be honest though, it doesn't seem like her or the zombie girl care because the old man wasn't useful in any way. By the way, the zombie girl's names are Euphrazine and her maid Alan. They actually started talking and we learned a few things. They were sleeping in the coffin for over 100 years, and the reason their bodies were so well preserved is because of the stone. And that brings up a problem because without the stone, their bodies can't be preserved, so they had to get it back. Things start to get a little bit weird here because Alma then eats a piece of the old man who died, and she shapeshifts into him. If you're wondering why Alma did this, it's because since the old man is a familiar face around the campus, it'll be easier for them to get information. Knowing that, they go straight to someone who was a part of the group to question him. Now, to be fair, not everyone in the group seen the corpse, so he doesn't know this was the girl inside the coffin. Still though, you should at least be cautious since they came straight to you after the crime was done. Now, Euphrazine and Alma was going to leave since the guy claims he wasn't there. But since Euphrazine was a pretty girl, he just had to invite her in. Now listen, this is the type of guy you wouldn't want to commit a crime with, because as soon as he let the two into his place, he snitches on himself and the group. Why, you may ask? Because he's trying to score cool points with Euphrazine. So now Euphrazine and Alma know that everyone in the occult club was involved. All the snitching isn't getting him nowhere though, because when he tried to get overly familiar with Euphrazine, she rips his arm off because she doesn't want to be touched. Obviously he tries to run away, but we know how this is gonna end. Funny enough, the members of his club, Abe and Sayaka, hears him, but they think he's just being dramatic. This is when Abe tells Sayaka that he knows that she made up the treasure, even though she claims to deny it. Abe then tries to blackmail Sayaka, but before he can go too far, they're interrupted. First by Alma, then by someone who discovered that the other guy had been killed. That person who discovered it was the other occult member. Alma goes back to Euphrazine and decides what to do next. That's when Euphrazine says she'll go and just ask for her stone back. Passing out. This is when Alma runs Euphrazine out on a carrier and runs her past the occult club. This is when Sayaka realizes that the girl is the mummy from the coffin. Now, at this moment, I feel like if you know the girl is a mummy, you know what she wants, so just give back the stone. Anyway, we turn our attention to a professor from earlier, and he's about to do a cruel and unusual experiment. So let's skip it. Moving back to Euphrazine and Alma, we see that Euphrazine is unstable without the stone, meaning they need to get it back ASAP. Now, the occult members who were stealing did call the police, but since they told police that it was mummies, it's unlikely that they would show up. Even Abe is refusing to acknowledge that Euphrazine and Alma are mummies. While Abe is hinting that Sayaka took something from the mummies, Euphrosyne breaks through the window. Euphrosyne decides to be reasonable, telling them if they give back the stone, she won't kill them. Knowing that, you expect them to give back the stone, right? They don't. Instead, one of the girls tries to fight Euphrosyne, even though she knows she's a zombie. She actually gets a hiss off, allowing her to run, and the rest of the group, but they're stopped in the hallway by Alma. Now, Abe snatched the case that was supposed to have the stone to bed for his life, but a toilet comes flying through and kills Abe. Crazy, I thought he was going to make it to the end. Sayaka sneaks attack Alma, and that distracts Euphrosyne, leading her to get off guarded. It doesn't matter how many times she get off guard though, because we all know how this ends, right? Now, Euphrosyne goes to rescue Alma, but it turns out to be a trap, lighting Euphrosyne on fire. They're then met by a professor because it turns out he was watching them the whole time through security cams. Side note, they do talk about why Euphrosyne is a zombie. She died in a tragic accident, so her father used magic to resurrect her. Alma is a little bit different, but she was also resurrected. Now, while Sayaka and the others are trying to see what happened to the zombies, Sayaka ends up getting kidnapped by Euphrosyne and Alma. They thought she had the stone, but when they realized she didn't, Alma transforms into Sayaka to prepare a trap. Now, when confronted, it turns out the professor is the one with the stone. He got it from Sayaka, and he tends to use it to resurrect things like the doll from earlier. Now, the professor couldn't tell which Sayaka was the real one, so his sister Mako decides to take matters into her own hands and kill the one Euphrosyne is holding, which is the real one. The professor doesn't care though, he just wants the stone. By the way, the reason the professor knows about the stone in the first place is because he's a descendant from a baron who sold Euphrosyne and Alma in the past. So he feels entitled to the stone. He doesn't care about them though, so he slits Alma's throat. Okay, stay with me now because these two things get a little bit weird. The professor uses the stone to give his sister eternal life, making her a zombie, because he's in love with her. This type of love you'll feel for a woman. And I guess the feeling is mutual because she steals his heart, literally. Too bad the professor didn't understand how crazy his sister was. Now, all that's left is Euphrosyne, Mako, and a girl that's passed out. Now, obviously, Mako is trying to take out Euphrosyne, but before she can finish her off, Euphrosyne realizes Alma is still alive and has loosened the veil. Euphrosyne then used it to crush Mako, effectively killing her and taking the stone back. That's pretty much it. With the girlfriend being the sole survivor from a occult group who were stealing, and Euphrosyne and Alma going about their way and planning to enjoy their life as zombies, and thus bringing the movie to an end. Now, personally, I felt like this was just an okay movie, but I'll be lying if I said it didn't bother me how most of the characters kept making stupid decisions. Like the whole occult group could have lived if it would just gave back the stone. But that's just my opinion. I do recommend watching the movie for your own personal experience. And I also left out some small details. Check it out. But besides that, that's basically it.